I never expected my cousin to ruin my week before breakfast. But there he was, standing in my doorway at 7 a.m., looking like a Wall Street villain who had just discovered a new way to tax sunlight. The second shock was that he didn't come alone. When the boy stepped out from behind him, I almost forgot how to breathe. Elias Davenport, my cousin, was everything Manhattan loved. Wealth, arrogance, and a scowl sharp enough to cut through steel. He was the type of man whose footsteps made people straighten their posture. But the boy standing beside him was the complete opposite. He looked soft, careful, like someone who apologized to chairs after bumping into them. And Elias, who never cared for anyone, had a hand on the boy's shoulder. That was the part that didn't make sense. I pulled open the door wider. "You're early," I said, because stating the obvious was safer than stating what was running through my head. Like, who the hell is he? Elias brushed past me without asking, as he always did. He didn't even look at the place, though he hadn't visited my home in 2 years. The boy hesitated at the doorstep, like he was afraid he wasn't allowed to cross. His brown eyes lifted to mine, quietly pleading for some sort of permission. I stepped back and nodded. He smiled, just a small thing, gentle, warm. That smile hit harder than it should. Inside, Elias placed a file on my counter. "I need you to help for a couple of weeks," he said. His voice was clipped, cold, controlled. The voice he used when he expected people to obey before understanding. I folded my arms. "Help with what?" Elias jerked his chin toward the boy. This, I repeated. The boy flushed, shrinking in on himself. "You make him sound like a lost package." "He's legally under my care for now," Elias said, jaw tight. "But I'm busy, and you work from home, so you'll watch him." I blinked. Several times. My cousin, the man who once said children were noise with legs, was responsible for this boy. "Who is he?" I asked softer. Elias hesitated for the first time. His gaze hardened. "That's not important. To him. To me, it suddenly felt extremely important." The boy took a step forward, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Noah. Noah." The name suited him. Quiet, kind, a little sad. "How old are you, Noah?" I asked. 17, he answered, fiddling with the straps of his backpack. "Barely on the edge of adulthood." My stomach twisted. I turned to Elias. "And what exactly am I supposed to do with him?" "Make sure he doesn't get into trouble. Make sure he goes to his appointments. Make sure he eats something." Elias sighed like the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. "Just do what you always do. Be responsible." "You have a strange way of saying please." "I'm not saying please. I'm saying do it." I opened my mouth to argue, but then Noah looked at me again, and the argument died. There was something fragile in his eyes, like someone who had been handed too many reasons not to trust the world. "Fine," I said, exhaling. "He can stay." Noah smiled again. This time it reached his eyes. After Elias left, the house felt noticeably quieter, like someone had turned off a storm. Noah sat on the couch, hands folded neatly, eyes roaming the room with cautious curiosity. "So," I said, leaning on the kitchen island, hungry for normalcy. "Breakfast?" He nodded. "Do you have cereal?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You're asking the right guy." I poured 2 bowls. He watched me the entire time, like he wasn't used to people doing things for him. When he took the first bite, he closed his eyes, savoring it. "It's good," he murmured. "The cereal," I said, amused. He looked down, embarrassed. "Sorry. I just haven't had this brand in a long time." I froze. Something unspoken tightened in the room. I changed the subject quickly. "So how do you know Elias?" He stiffened. His spoon clattered against the bowl. "Cheese. Family, I think. Maybe. I don't really know." "You don't know?" I repeated slowly. He shook his head. "Barely. I just know he's supposed to be responsible for me." Something cold slid down my spine. "Okay," I said gently. "You don't have to explain anything you don't want to." He looked relieved. "Thank you." The way he said it, soft, sincere, made something warm settle in my chest. Later that day, I found Noah standing outside in my backyard, staring up at the massive oak tree. The sun hit him from behind, turning his hair into strands of gold. Beautiful, I said before I could stop myself. He turned around, confused. The tree? I swallowed. Yeah. The tree. He smiled again, like he suspected the lie but didn't want to call it out. Do you ever climb it? He asked. I used to, I admitted, when I wasn't old and brittle. He really laughed, and something inside me cracked open. His laughter felt like sunlight slipping into a room that had been locked for years. Show me, he said, eyes brightening. Show you what? How you climbed it. I blinked. Noah, I haven't climbed that thing since I was 22. I'll break something important. He tilted his head with exaggerated innocence. Like your pride? I stared at him. Was he teasing me? He was teasing me. Fine. Just to prove you wrong. I grabbed a low branch, hoisted myself up, and immediately regretted my life choices. Noah cheered from below way too enthusiastically. You're doing great. I'm doing something, I muttered. I climbed 2 branches higher, panting dramatically, then looked down. Noah's face was lit with admiration, sunlight, and something softer, something that made my heartbeat stumble. Jump down, he shouted. Absolutely not. He laughed again, leaning on the trunk. You're funnier than your cousin. That's not difficult. He smiled, biting his lip. He's scary. Yeah. He usually scares people professionally. But he scares you too, right? I hesitated. Noah's eyes were watching me closely. Yeah, I admitted. More than I'd like to admit. Noah nodded, like he understood all too well what it was like to be intimidated by someone who should feel safe. You can come down now, he said. I climbed down carefully. When my feet touched the grass, Noah stepped closer. You're braver than you look. My breath caught. That close, I could see every shade of brown in his eyes. Warm, soft, searching. A breeze blew between us, but it didn't lessen the closeness. I swallowed. You don't know me well enough to say that. He looked at me quietly. I think I do. That night, after Noah went to bed, I sat alone on the couch, replaying every moment of the day. His smile, his laughter, the way he looked at me like I was something safe. Dangerous thoughts. Thoughts I shouldn't entertain. He's 17, I told myself. Still figuring out the world. He needs stability, not confusion. Besides, Elias would kill me if he even suspected a thought like that. But another part of me whispered, you felt it. He felt it too. I pressed my palms over my face. I needed to breathe, think, distance. But when I passed by Noah's room, his door cracked open, and I heard a quiet, trembling breath like he had cried himself to sleep. My heart twisted painfully. I stopped walking. I wanted to knock, to check, to comfort. But I did nothing, because I was afraid of what it would mean if I did. The next morning, Noah was sitting on the kitchen floor feeding cereal to Cookie, my elderly beagle who had declared war on mornings years ago. I leaned on the doorway. Seriously? I said. Cookie's on a strict diet. Noah jumped. I am sorry. I just thought her face looked sad. She always looks sad. Cookie barked once in protest. Noah smiled sheepishly. I'll stop. It's fine, I said. She likes you. Maybe too much. Noah beamed. He looked radiant today, hair messy, oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder, eyes bright like he hadn't cried at all. I made pancakes, he said shyly, pointing to a small stack on the counter. I hope that's okay. I wanted to repay you. Repay me? I blinked. Noah, you don't have to repay anything. You're staying here, that's all. He bit his lip. But you're being kind. I'm not used to that. My chest ached. Noah, kindness isn't a debt. He looked at me, eyes soft and raw. Then why does it feel like one? I didn't have an answer. We ate pancakes together. We talked about little things, movies he liked, classes he hated, the music he listened to when he couldn't sleep. His voice carried a softness that made me want to fill every silence with reassurance. Then he asked, do you hate Elias? I choked on my coffee. Hate is a strong word. But true? He asked, almost hopeful. I sighed. He's difficult, controlling, cold. But he's still family. Noah looked down at his plate. Must be nice. What must be nice? Having family. I froze. Noah's voice was trembling, but he tried to hide it behind a smile. Anyway, I'm glad you're not like him, he added. I swallowed. I wanted to tell him that he deserved better. That whatever had happened before this house, before Elias, before today, it wasn't his fault. But I didn't want to push him. Instead, I reached out and gently poked his arm. Someone has to balance out the family drama. He laughed, soft and genuine. And in that moment, with morning sunlight spilling through the windows and the smell of pancakes between us, something shifted. Something fragile, hopeful, and terrifying. Because I knew, with dangerous certainty, I was beginning to fall for him, and I had no idea how to stop. Noah grew more comfortable in the house over the next few days, slipping into the small rhythms of my life with surprising ease. He followed Cookie around like a loyal sidekick, learned which of my mugs I hated people using, and developed the terrible habit of stealing the blanket from the couch every night when we watched movies. Every day he revealed some new part of himself, tiny pieces, careful pieces, like he was afraid giving away too much would make him disappear. But the more he opened up, the more complicated everything became. It started with the nightmares. The first time, I woke to the sound of something breaking. A crash. A choked gasp. Then silence. I shot out of bed and rushed to the hallway. Noah's door was half open again. A faint light flickered from inside, barely illuminating his shaking silhouette. He was crouched on the floor, trembling, hands gripping his hair, rocking forward and back as if trapped inside something invisible. "Noah," I whispered. He didn't look up. His breath came in sharp, uneven bursts. I stepped inside slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Hey, it's okay." He flinched at my voice, curling in on himself. My chest tightened painfully. I knelt in front of him and softened my voice to a whisper. "It's me. You're safe." After several long moments, he lifted his head. His eyes were glassy, unfocused, filled with terror. Where am I?" he rasped. "At my house," I murmured. "You're safe." He blinked like he was trying to swallow the fear whole. His hands dropped to his sides, trembling uncontrollably. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I shouldn't wake you up." "Noah." I reached out but stopped inches away, giving him space to choose. "You don't have to apologize for being scared." His lower lip quivered. He stared at my hands, then slowly, very slowly, leaned forward until his forehead touched my shoulder. The breath left my lungs. He wasn't crying. He wasn't talking. He was just leaning, seeking warmth, contact, safety. I closed my eyes and let him. My hands hovered before settling lightly on his back, careful not to overwhelm him. After a long moment, he whispered, "Can you stay? Just until I fall asleep again?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, of course." I helped him back into bed. He clung to my sleeve like a child afraid I'd vanish if he let go. I sat in the chair beside his bed, and he kept his fingers curled around my arm until his breathing evened out. I stayed long after he fell asleep, and when I finally returned to my room, lying awake in the dark, I knew the line between us had blurred. And once blurred, it would never be the same again. The next morning, Noah acted as if nothing had happened. He smiled at me in the kitchen, fed Cookie cereal again, and chattered about a documentary he found interesting. But every time our eyes met, something unspoken flickered between us. A shared memory, a fragile truth. He remembered, and he knew I remembered. After breakfast, I drove him to his appointment, one Elias had mentioned but refused to explain. A therapist, it turned out. Noah didn't speak during the drive. He stared out the window, fingers tapping nervously against his leg. "You don't have to talk about it," I said. "I know," he said softly. "Do you want me to wait inside or out here?" He hesitated. "Inside, if that's okay." "Of course." He smiled faintly, then disappeared into the therapist's office. I sat in the waiting area flipping through magazines I didn't actually read, too aware of the closed door and the secrets behind it. When he emerged 45 minutes later, his eyes were red, but his expression was lighter. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah. We didn't talk about it, but we didn't need to." That evening, I found him sitting on the back porch steps, legs drawn to his chest, watching the sunset. Mind if I join you? I asked. He shook his head, so I sat beside him. The sky was awash in pink and orange, warm and gentle, like the world was trying to reassure him too. After a long silence, he whispered, I don't know why he hates me. I turned sharply. Who? But I already knew. My guardian, he murmured. Elias. I felt a flare of anger, sudden and sharp, but kept my voice steady. What makes you think he hates you? Noah hugged his knees. He doesn't look at me like he looks at other people. He talks to me like he has to, like I'm some kind of obligation he never wanted. Obligation. The word treated him like a burden. My jaw tightened. Noah, I said gently. People like Elias, they're not good at showing what they feel. Sometimes it comes out wrong. But he doesn't even try, Noah whispered. Not once. I had no argument for that. Elias didn't try. He never had. Noah turned to me, his expression small and vulnerable. Do you think I did something wrong? To make him like that? The question hit me in the chest. No, I said firmly. Absolutely not. Whatever his issue is, it's his issue, not yours. He stared at me, searching my face for any hint of hesitation. When he found none, his shoulders relaxed slightly. You always know the right thing to say, he murmured. I scoffed. Not even close. He smiled softly. Then maybe you just know the right way to say things. His eyes lingered on me longer than they should have. Warm, grateful, trusting. I looked away before I did something stupid. One afternoon, Elias showed up again. He didn't knock. He never knocked. He simply strode into the house like it belonged to him. Noah froze on the couch, clutching a controller mid-game. Cookie growled from her bed. Elias raised a brow. Good to know your dog still hates me. She has taste, I replied. Elias ignored the jab. He looked at Noah like he was inspecting damage on a rental car. Therapy went well? Noah nodded but didn't speak. Elias's eyes flicked to me. I need to talk to you. Alone. I bristled. Why? It's about him. I glanced at Noah. His posture had tightened. I didn't want him listening to whatever Elias planned to unload behind closed doors. So I followed Elias into the hallway. He crossed his arms. You're getting too close. The bluntness knocked the air out of me. What? Don't act stupid, he said coldly. He's fragile, impressionable. And Uriel, I'm what? Soft. Elias spat. You get attached. You care too fast. It's dangerous for someone like him. Something inside me snapped. What he needs is someone who actually treats him like a human being. And that someone is not supposed to be you. My pulse thudded in my ears. Why not? Because he's not staying. Elias's voice thinned. This arrangement is temporary. The last thing he needs is another person leaving him. I stared at him, stunned. You're leaving him too, I whispered. Elias's jaw clenched. His situation is complicated. Explain it. I can't. Elias, I said I can't. His voice dropped dangerously low. Do not make this harder. My blood boiled. You're the one making it harder by treating him like he's disposable. Elias leaned in, voice icy. Just keep your distance. I felt the words like a punch. You don't get to tell me how close I can be. I do if it hurts him. I opened my mouth, rage surging, but then a small voice interrupted. Please don't fight. We both turned. Noah stood a few feet away, arms wrapped around himself, eyes wide and glassy. He had heard everything. The guilt hit instantly, heavy and suffocating. Noah, I began. He shook his head quickly. It's okay. I don't want to cause trouble. You didn't, I said immediately. Elias said nothing. The silence pressed down like a weight. Noah lowered his gaze. I'll go to my room. He walked away before either of us could stop him. When his door clicked shut, I rounded on Elias again, fury blazing. Look what you did. What we did, he corrected. You're not innocent either. And then he walked out. I hated that he was right about one thing. I wasn't innocent. I had let Noah hear the worst of us. The parts that made him feel like a burden. The parts he had spent years trying to outrun. I knocked softly on Noah's door that evening. No answer. I tried again. Noah? Can I come in? Still nothing. My heart twisted. I opened the door gently. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. His posture was stiff, too still, like he had folded himself into a smaller shape. I sat beside him, careful not to crowd. Noah, I said softly, you didn't cause anything. He didn't look at me. You two were fighting about me. We were fighting about how to take care of you. That's not the same. He shook his head. I shouldn't have come here. I'm just trouble. A familiar anger rose, anger at whoever planted that idea in him. Don't say that, I said firmer. It's true, he whispered. People always get tired of me, or annoyed, or overwhelmed. I swallowed. Not me. He hesitated. And Elias? I exhaled. He's complicated. But whatever he feels, it's not because of you. His voice cracked. Then why does he look at me like I'm some mistake he regrets? The ache in my chest sharpened. I wanted to tell him everything he deserved to hear, that he wasn't a mistake, that he wasn't a burden, that he mattered, but I couldn't overwhelm him. So I did the only thing that felt right. I reached out and took his hand. Lightly, slowly, giving him time to pull away. He didn't. His fingers curled around mine like he'd been waiting to hold on to something. His breath trembled. Why are you so kind to me? Because you deserve kindness, I said quietly. Because you deserve more than you've been given. He looked up, then really looked at me. Something raw passed between us. Something honest. Something neither of us were ready to name. After a long moment, he whispered, Can I stay here tonight? Not alone. My heart stuttered. You can stay. He shifted closer, head resting lightly on my shoulder. The warmth of him seeped into me, grounding and terrifying at the same time. I knew the line was blurring again, but I didn't move, because at that moment, Noah wasn't asking for romance or answers or confessions. He was asking not to be alone. So I stayed, and I held him, and the world felt quieter. Something changed after that night. Noah became braver, not loud, not bold, but more open. He'd reach for my sleeve when he talked. He'd lean against my shoulder during movies. He'd laugh more easily, trust more freely. And I was falling deeper than I wanted to admit. But even in the warmth, something darker lurked at the edges. The way Noah still flinched at loud voices. The way he froze when the phone rang and Elias's name appeared. The way he asked, in a trembling whisper one night, Would you miss me if I wasn't here? I didn't understand why he asked, but I answered honestly. Yes, I said, more than you know. The smile he gave me was bright and unbearably sad, as if he knew something I didn't, as if he already felt the ground shifting beneath our feet, as if he feared the moment he'd have to let go. The morning everything changed began quietly, almost peacefully. Noah was in the kitchen, humming to himself as he made scrambled eggs, wearing one of my hoodies that hung off his shoulders like a soft blanket. Cookie circled his feet protectively, as if she had adopted him permanently. Morning, he said when he saw me, his smile small but warm. Morning, I murmured, trying not to stare too long. Somehow every day with him felt more dangerous, like I was skating closer to something I wasn't supposed to want. He held up a plate. I didn't burn anything this time. That's a first. He gasped dramatically. You should be grateful. This is gourmet effort. Oh, I am. Absolutely. I bit back a grin. 5-star chef energy. His cheeks colored. Shut up. For a moment, we were just two people sharing a kitchen, comfortable and close. It felt like a life that could have been ours if things were different. If time moved slower. If boundaries weren't real. If he didn't belong to someone else's complicated world. As he set the plates down, his phone buzzed on the counter. He stiffened when he saw the caller ID. Elias. The warmth in the room evaporated like steam. Noah hesitated, then pressed decline. His hand shook slightly. You okay? I asked softly. He nodded too quickly. Yeah, I don't want to talk to him today. but his shoulders curled inward like he was bracing for impact. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, when a loud knock echoed through the house. Not a gentle knock, a forceful one. Noah froze. I walked to the door, expecting a neighbor or package. Instead, I found Elias standing on the porch. His expression was carved from stone, but his eyes carried a sharpness I hadn't seen before. "We need to talk," he said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You can't just show up like this. I can when something urgent comes up." His gaze flicked over my shoulder, toward the house. "Where is he? Why do you care?" Elias's jaw twitched. "Move." No, we stared at each other, two storms colliding. He exhaled sharply. "Fine. I'll say it here." He lowered his voice. "You won't like what you're about to hear." "What?" I snapped. He hesitated, and for a split second, I saw something unfamiliar in his eyes. Fear. Then he said it. "Noah isn't my cousin. He isn't my responsibility by choice. He's my son." The world tilted. My breath vanished. "What?" I managed. Elias rubbed his forehead like the words physically hurt him. "It was years ago. A stupid, reckless decision in college that I never dealt with properly. I didn't know he existed until recently. And when I did find out, I didn't handle it well." My pulse hammered in my ears. "You think it's complicated," he said, voice low. "His mother passed away. Her family didn't want him. They tracked me down as a last resort. I'm trying, but I don't know how to be a father. I barely know how to be a person half the time." I stared at him, numb. "Why didn't you tell him?" I asked. "Because I was scared," he whispered. "Because I didn't want him to hate me for abandoning him before I even knew he existed." "You think hiding the truth makes that better?" "No," his voice cracked for the first time. "I know it doesn't." Behind us, the door creaked open. Noah stood there. His face was pale. His eyes were wide. And he had heard everything. Elias inhaled sharply. Noah stepped back. Then another step. Then he turned and ran. "Noah!" I shouted, bolting after him. But he was already out the back door, sprinting through the yard, disappearing behind the oak tree as if the world was swallowing him whole. I found him in the neighbor's field, sitting in the grass, trembling so hard his whole body shook. He didn't look up when I approached. His arms were wrapped tightly around his knees, knuckles white. I sat beside him slowly, giving him space. He didn't move. "Talk to me," I whispered. He shook his head. "I can't." "You can." He buried his face in his hands. "Why didn't he tell me? Why did nobody tell me?" Tears dripped through his fingers. My throat tightened painfully. "Because he's an idiot." Noah let out a broken laugh that turned into a sob. "I thought he hated me," he whispered. "All this time I thought there was something wrong with me." "There's nothing wrong with you." "Then why didn't he want me?" "Because he's scared. Because he doesn't know how to be vulnerable. Because he spent his entire life pretending he doesn't need anyone." Noah looked at me, tears streaking down his cheeks. "But I needed him." I swallowed. "I know. And he left me alone with all these secrets. Like I wasn't important enough to tell." "You are," I said, my voice breaking. "You are important. You're important to me." His breath hitched. He stared at me like the world had tilted again, but this time, toward him instead of away. "Why?" he whispered. "Why do you care so much?" "Because I'm in love with you." The words rose to my throat, burning, aching, waiting to be spoken. But he was hurting, vulnerable, raw. So I chose honesty, but not too much. "Because you make this house feel like a home," I said quietly. "Because you make mornings easier and nights quieter. Because you smile at me like I'm someone worth trusting." He inhaled sharply, eyes glistening. "And because," I continued, "you don't have to be strong with me. You can just be Noah." Silence wrapped around us, thick and trembling. Then Noah leaned forward and pressed his forehead to my shoulder, the same way he had the night of his nightmare. Only this time he wasn't seeking safety. He was seeking me. I wrapped my arms around him carefully, like holding something fragile but precious. He sobbed into my chest, and I held him until the shaking stopped. When we finally walked back to the house, Elias was waiting on the porch, hands in his hair, pacing like a man on the edge of collapse. When he saw Noah, he froze. Noah's steps faltered. Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes were red, like he'd been fighting tears he refused to shed. "Noah," he said softly. "I'm sorry." Noah's lip trembled. "For lying. For everything." They stared at each other, two broken halves of a truth neither knew how to fix. Then Noah whispered, "Do you even want me?" The words stabbed through the air. Elias stepped forward slowly, fear etched into every line of his face. "I don't know how to be a father, but I want to try, if you let me." Noah blinked through tears. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I didn't think I deserved to." Noah swallowed. "And now. Elias's voice cracked. Now I'm terrified of losing my son before I get the chance to know him." Something in Noah's expression crumbled. He didn't run this time. He didn't yell. He just whispered, "Okay." Not forgiveness. Not acceptance. Just the first fragile step. Elias exhaled shakily, like he'd been holding his breath for years. He reached out but didn't touch Noah, waiting, asking silently. Noah hesitated, then placed his hand in Elias's. It was small, awkward, uncertain, but it was real. I looked away, letting them have their moment, even though my heart twisted with something complicated: relief, sadness, love, because I knew what came next. Noah would go with Elias. Their relationship needed healing, and I wasn't part of that healing. Later, inside the house, Noah found me in the kitchen. He looked calmer, but a soft sadness hung around him like fog. "We're leaving tomorrow," he said. I nodded. "I figured." "You okay?" he asked gently. I forced a smile. "Of course. This is good. You and Elias. You need time together." He looked down. "I don't want to leave." My breath caught. "Noah." He stepped closer. "I don't want to leave you." The air between us tightened. I took a shaky breath. "But you have to. This is your family. Your beginning." He whispered, "You feel like home." Pain swelled in my chest. "And you deserve to build one with him too." His eyes filled with tears again, but this time he didn't cry. He simply nodded. Then, hesitantly, he stepped into my arms. I held him tightly, memorizing the warmth, the shape of him, the way he fit against me like he had always belonged there. Every second felt like it was slipping away too quickly. When he finally pulled back, he whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me the first place I ever felt wanted." My voice died in my throat. He smiled sadly, then walked to his room to pack. And for the first time since he arrived, the house felt cold. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. Elias's car sat in the driveway, trunk open. Noah stood beside it with his backpack, looking small but steadier than before. "I'll visit," he said. "You better," I said, forcing a smile. "Cookie's already sulking." Noah laughed softly. Then he stepped closer and wrapped his arms around me, hugging me tighter than he ever had. I hugged him back, my heart cracking open. When he pulled away, he whispered, "Take care of yourself." "You too," I murmured. He got into the car. The engine started. Elias nodded at May, a silent thank you, or maybe an apology, and then they drove away. I watched until the car vanished down the street. The house felt empty, like he'd taken all the sunlight with him. Weeks passed. Life returned to its quiet routine, but something was missing. The couch felt too big. Breakfast felt too quiet. Even Cookie wandered the house searching for him. Every day I wondered if he was okay. Every night I hoped he missed me too. Then one afternoon the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door and there he was. Noah. Standing on my porch, backpack slung over his shoulder, eyes bright with a mixture of nerves and hope. My heart stopped. "Noah," I breathed. He smiled timidly. "Elias and I talked. A lot. We're working things out. Really working on it." "That's great," I said, meaning it. He nodded. But there's something else too. What? He took a step forward, then another, closing the distance between us. I wanted to come back, he whispered, because I realized something. My breath hitched. What? His cheeks flushed. I love him, as my father. I do. I'm learning to. I smiled softly. You should. But, he swallowed, eyes locked on mine. I also realized who I run to when things get hard. Who makes me feel safe. Who feels like home. The world narrowed to the space between us. Then Noah whispered, You. I froze. He continued, voice trembling but sure. I'm 18 now. I know what I want. And I want you. The breath left my lungs in a single, shuddering exhale. Noah, I whispered, stepping closer, lifting a trembling hand to his cheek. He leaned into it instantly. I waited, he murmured. I needed to grow. He needed to be my father. And you needed to know I chose you for me, not because I was scared or broken. Tears burned my eyes. Then finally I pulled him into my arms. He melted against me, smiling against my shoulder. And when he lifted his face and looked at me with those warm, soft, trusting eyes, I knew there was no going back. I cupped his face gently. He whispered, Can I kiss you now? My voice broke. Yes. He kissed me soft, slow, full of every quiet ache we had carried, every fear, every longing. A kiss that felt like coming home after being lost for too long. When we pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm here, he whispered. I'm not running anymore. And for the first time, the future didn't feel fragile. Felt possible. Felt ours. Cookie barked loudly, as if offended she wasn't included. Noah laughed, wiping his eyes. I missed her too. Come on, I said, pulling him gently inside. Welcome home. Noah smiled, the bright, soft, radiant smile I had fallen for from the beginning. Yeah, he whispered. Home. And this time he wasn't leaving. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.